my role for our team is I'm a research director in data analysis, and we have so coordinate research projects to really practice evidence-based medicine. Before we go implementing a new product into the field, we want to make sure that we have sound scientific data that this is going to make an improvement into the efficiencies of the animals, and not just something that's from a test tube lab, like the idea like more the rubber meets the road. And so coordinate and execute, looking at new vaccines, feed additives, antibiotic treatments, looking how we use some of those treatments, management strategies, dewormers, implants, anything under the sun, from how we can look at these practices to make more informed decisions. And a lot of these things we've learned that maybe more is not always better. So it's beneficial to the producer's bottom line as well, to how we figure out as well as the cattle. So it's a win-win for everyone there.
Welcome to the Beef Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandy Buzzard, and it's my pleasure to bring you the trending issues and topics with the best and brightest minds in the beef industry. Today, we're joined by my very good friend, Dr. Miles Theurer. Dr. Theurer earned his bachelor's in animal science, his DVM, and his PhD in diagnostic medicine and pathobiology, all from Kansas State University. He's the research director at Veterinary Research and Consulting Services and is here to tell us all about the importance of research, data, and decision-making. So I'm very excited to welcome my friend to the podcast. Welcome here today, Miles.
Oh, Brandy, good to catch up again. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, we were talking before, folks, before we came online about how long it had been since Miles and I had seen each other. And it has been, basically, we came to the conclusion that it has been too long. So it's really good to talk to Miles and to have you here today. So to start off with, I gave a very, very brief background on you. But if you just want to tell us about how you got involved in the beef industry, how did you decide to go into veterinary medicine and research and consulting, just give us some background on that.
Sure. So grew up on I guess kind of backstory from myself. I grew up on a family farm, cow-calf operation south of Wellington, Kansas. And going through high school or elementary school, my whole goal was to be a veterinarian from the day one. Had opportunity to interact with our local veterinarian, had significant impact on me growing up, and wanted to strive to do that. And really the idea from growing up was actually to be primarily a preg check veterinarian. That I thought was the end all be all goal. Got to go to, Nick said, Randy highlighted in my background, lots of purple in my background, go Cats. But we have
Go Cats.
That's right, go Cats. I can't go wrong there. So got exposed really to the research side through undergrad, and really started piquing my interest, and had to really was like, well, maybe I should focus more onto that than the veterinary school. And the department head at the time had discussions with him, and he just looked at me and said, well, Miles, just go do both. You can do that. So just start as a dual program and go on down the road, and you have all your doors open. So needless to say, that's where I kind of started in and went through vet school and did a concurrent PhD program there. And it was been a great from the very challenging standpoint to get through from the veterinary school. The graduate school actually kept me the motivation drive going. Back earlier I said I wanted to be a preg check veterinarian, and I'm a terrible preg checker. Just absolutely not one of my skill set standpoints. But fortunately enough, from the data and the research side, happened to come together pretty well, and following those protocols and developing that. And so it was an opportunity to marry those things together, and had the opportunity. So post graduation, where the opportunity came up with Veterinary Research and Consulting Services, been some changeover in that organization, and was looking for a research director, and primarily be housed out here in Southwest Kansas. So primarily housed here at High Plains Feed Yard. and a lot of the facilities. We can talk about those here as we move on, but it was a very unique opportunity, and I was like, you don't get this opportunity very often to come across, and I jumped feet first into it, and been out here for 7 years now, conducting research projects and enjoying every minute of it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm laughing at your preg shape joke because I was going to say, like, I haven't seen you in so long. When you're at this end of the state, you could just time it up and come preg check our cows. But you said that you're not very good at it, so I don't know.
You wouldn't want to have me probably been too long from the accuracy wise. It's one of those ones you can get the hang of it wise back if you get in enough cows. Yeah, probably having someone that's experienced and trained in those aspects, and that's the beautiful part about veterinary medicine. Even when we think about our species specific, experts in the field, there's such a wide diversity within those species over what we can work at and achieve. And the fortunate thing about us and our consulting group is we have a great team of veterinarians. So there's 12 of us that work together on a day-to-day basis, and we're spread out from New Mexico to Iowa and Colorado, Wyoming. That's our where people live. We have a central office in Hayes, but it's just an office standpoint. No, but we all work together and collaborate, and we have these knowledge group to bounce ideas off of. And if we need someone that's better from a horse handling standpoint, we can bring in the people. If we need someone that's better from on the cow-calf side, on the repro to train in the feed yard or on the cow-calf side, we have that team, and that really just allows us to excel and more importantly help our clients.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So since we're on the topic of veterinary research and consulting services, admittedly, I had never heard of the company. I'm not a veterinarian, and I also don't own a feed yard. So, it's kind of out of the realm of of the things that I work on. But just tell us more about them and your role there, like maybe what you do, and then how does that fill your cup working in that role? Because it's very easy for our audience who is not actually can't see Miles, but is just listening to the podcast. Like I've known Miles for more than a decade, maybe close to, 15 years I've known Miles or more. And I can see how excited he is to speak about his role there. And like, he's just speaking with a lot of passion. So let's just get into that and tell us more about what you do there and then how that fills your cup and such.
Yeah, so VRCS is like for an acronym standpoint, to keep it short and sweet wise, you hear that referred to, but was originally founded in 1984 by Dr. Dale Miles. And so he saw the opportunity, worked for some industry for a while, but saw the need from a consulting feedlot veterinarian. So go around and training personnel, to do the day-to-day activities to make sure we're providing the safe and safe and wholesome food supply, and how do we improve these efficiencies, and so going to the feed yards from a day-to-day operation, looking at new processing protocols, treatment protocols, daily care over how we're handling and feeding cattle, was where Dale started at. It was one of the first ones to kind of start the veterinary consulting services into the feed yard. And so Dell is still involved with our organization, and so back in grew that, and then like I said, back in 2015, Dr. Trent Fox and his wife Mandy bought the practice from Dell. And so, and then there's been additional younger veterinarians that have jumped on board as well. And so we've grown that operation. So we are primarily a feedlot veterinary consulting group. We do some dairy work, some backgrounding work, cow-calf operations as well. But we cover 70 feed yards from Texas to Washington and everywhere in between. And then so every day we have a little over 2 million head of cattle on feed that's underneath our care, plus dairies, calf ranches, as well. So my role for our team is I'm primary, big swath there. And like I said, it's a lot, we think of the animals, but it's more importantly about the people. We talk about that, we're providing care for the animals and developing these protocols, but working with the people to execute these things on a day-to-day basis. And so my role for our team is I'm our research director in data analysis. And We have so coordinate research projects to really practice evidence-based medicine. Before we go implementing a new product into the field, we want to make sure that we have sound scientific data that this is going to make an improvement into the efficiencies of the animals, and not just something that's from a test tube lab, like the idea like more the rubber meets the road. And so coordinate and execute, looking at new vaccines, feed additives, antibiotic treatments, looking how we use some of those treatments, management strategies, dewormers, implants, anything under the sun, from how we can look at these practices to make more informed decisions. And a lot of these things we've learned that maybe more is not always better. So it's beneficial to the producer's bottom line as well, to how we figure out as well as the cattle. So it's a win-win for everyone there. And then I'll also coordinate all of the data for all of those feed yards. We'll come to a centralized database, and we'll do a lot of benchmark reports and analysis, and provide that information to the other team that are out there doing from the day-to-day consulting, that they can utilize that information more real time and help identify trends and opportunities for those individual operations.
It sounds like very applied research, right? So the people on the listening to our podcast know the difference of basic research and applied. And so it sounds very applied, like practical, fitting it into the space of a business and the space of a ranch, of a feed yard. So that's really interesting. Can you speak on any, I'm sure there are proprietary things, like I understand that. Can you speak about any non-proprietary research that you might be working on in a more specific sense?
So a lot of the research, we do a little bit of everything side. So we do kind of operate as a contract research organization, and so we'll do those trials for those companies, and a lot of that information based off the results will be out there and come into the public domain. And so some of the recent stuff we've been looking a lot on over liver abscesses. Liver abscesses have been, and I know you had TG on here from previous podcasts, which is one of the experts from liver abscess standpoint. So really looking at how we try to manage some of these cattle, and with alternative methods to antibiotics for control of liver abscesses. Especially in these beef dairy crosses, which has been a phenomenal growth in the beef feedlot industry within the last 4 to 5 years. And so, but we have some of that data that's getting ready to be released. So maybe some of the feed grade antibiotics may not be as effective as what we used to think of in that population. And so other ways that we need to think about other options for control methods. And then, so liver abscesses have been a hot button, but we've done multiple different vaccine trials. So looking at some of the newer Manheimia products. So it's got a little bit of age on it now, but so a product called, or is a Manheimia product provided by Elanco called Nuplura was a recently one they put a lot more emphasis on. So we did a trial comparing that to our typical traditional feed yard application over pre-sponse, and saw no difference between those products. And so at the end of the day, that's a great aspect for us into the feed yard option, because for due to supply issues, as we've been through these last years and learning more and more of how that occurs, we have more options that more tools in our toolbox if we need to switch gears, and we know that we won't impact bottom line or performance. And it also does from a cost comparatively for our clients, where they can bid those products to use the most economical one and no impact on animal health outcomes.
I mean, Miles, based on what you just said, like, it's not like you guys are doing research on one very specific group of antimicrobials or vaccines or something. Like, you have a very broad, range of research that you're working on. And it seems like that, that's going to be very educational for the folks, for your clients that are commissioning the research, but also for the broader beef industry, feed yards, other veterinarian professionals. like, I know that education is really important to you because you've told me that before and such, but both inside and outside of the beef industry. So can you speak a little bit more about that? What do clarify maybe what do you mean about education inside the beef industry and education outside? Like, do you have some specific thoughts you can share on that?
Sure, be happy to. So I think education is a key component for all of us, and why it's great to do these research topics and find that share that results with other colleagues, and whether that's through publishing still in scientific journals, even though not in the academic industry, we still do a significant amount of publishing into the peer reviewed journals to make the data available for the industry to make more informed decisions for not only our own organization but for everyone, and we'll share that information from our veterinary conferences. So being ready to go here at the end of this week or to the American Association of Bovine Practitioners to do some research summaries. And then I'll be presenting at our Academy of Veterinary Consultants that shares a lot with the education of the veterinary profession. So we do a lot of that, but fortunately also to go through with that. So I'm housed here at High Plains Feed Yard. I'm located here at Montezuma. And so the feed yard, like I said, when the opportunity came open, the feed yard had the blueprints for this education and research center, which we had our open house in August of 2017. And so in this facility, we have a state-of-the-art processing facility, 200-person banquet hall that will host informational meetings. So we used to host a lot of over antimicrobial resistance, and we had representatives from CDC, USDA, FDA, and then we had over 35% of the U.S. cattle on feed represented by owners or managers into the audience, as well as industry people as well. Just kind of sharing some of these new tools, technologies, what's coming down the pike. How do we make things together to improve and be prepared? Also, the facility, though, we do a lot of education outside the beef industry. So so we'll do a lot of our end users. So we've been fortunate enough to work for the Certified Angus Beef to bring their master brands chefs out on tour groups, and so show them from the feed yard, bring them here through the processing facility, and actually process some cattle with them and show them the low stress handling methods and how we use cattle, move cattle through the facility. Actually, let them process a few of them if they have that interest, and then we can go into our banquet hall and have discussions over what they're seeing from their consumers and demands, and how can we help start to steer the industry to meet the needs of our society. It's been a really unique operation to have this in the middle of the feed yard where we can have these discussions and then load up and go look at the feed mill or cattle, or to provide really just from taking it to the hands-on approach. I say also to go on with that was we'll do a lot of student leadership training. So bring in a lot of area high schools, even though we're in the rural Kansas in the heart of feedlot country. Still, how surprising how many of the students that don't have really a clue what goes on in a feed yard or production agriculture from a day-to-day business operation. So we'll bring fourth graders through high schools in here for educational events and let them show, touch, feel, get their hands dirty. Let them educate of all the options for what's out there, and realize that that they may not have to go away from rural Kansas to have a successful career. There's tons and tons of opportunities here, and so seeing the light bulb click on some of those students, even just one of those students in those events, is well worthwhile. Makes it all enjoyable, and that's the heart and soul over everything. I love working with cattle, but at the end of the day, it's the people and the people you get to work with from a day-to-day basis.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Like I like the cows, but I like the people that I get to meet because of the cows too. Like, so that's really great. So when you're exclusively at High Plains then, right? Like you're not going to other feed yards, or you go to High Plains every day?
So about 90% of my time is here at High Plains Feed Yard, kind of overseeing the research projects. I do some other consulting at some dairy feed yards, backgrounding operations as well, to get out. But primarily, I'm also partially employed by the feed yard here as well, from being here for a majority amount of my time. So it's been a unique situation for all involved.
Okay. I mean, that's amazing that they have that, that banquet hall there and then the educational center. That's just phenomenal, not only for industry education, like what you're speaking about, continuing education, new technologies, hands-on things like that, but what you were speaking about, like with the younger generation, middle school, high school, that kind of thing. You're really right. I mean, I grew up in rural America just like you did. And I thought like the only careers that were going to be available to me coming back to rural America were going to be working as a farm insurance agent or like a farm lender or something. Like or being a vet, like those were a vet, ag teacher, farm insurance agent. Like those were kind of the three things that I was familiar with. And I mean, and I don't do any of those things now. So it's really nice to, it's important for kids in rural America to know that you can stay at home, stay in your home county or whatever, in your home, and have that production agriculture experience that you wanted, that you were growing up. But you can still also have a successful career. Like you don't have to choose one. It might be more work and it's difficult, to logistically to make it all work, but you can have both of those things that fulfill you and make you happy. So that's great that you not only work somewhere that recognizes that, but that you get to pour into those kids as well. So I'm not surprised that you're doing something, that you're giving back like that at all. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, no, it's really really rewarding to like to watch the students just to their eyes open and go, oh, hearing a few of them, I want to work here when I get out of school. I mean, that, like didn't know that. Like, I was like, well, that just goes to show that we talk about from an education side over, how do we reach students in New York or LA that's have concrete everywhere. And don't get me wrong, we still need to continue to do efforts to them because great opportunities there as well. But we don't need to forget what's in our back door as well.
Absolutely, you have to tell them though that they can't. I mean, they can't work. You're there right now. They can't like shove you out. So earlier, let me find it. You were speaking about beef on dairy, and that you just briefly mentioned it, and that has become like I remember when I first started. At Red Angus, I remember that was kind of just getting a little bit more discussion. That would have been in 2017. And now it seems like it's fully everywhere. It's an embraced concept. What are your thoughts on beef on dairy? Like you're doing research with these kinds of cattle, what are you seeing? Maybe just from like a broad perspective.
So yeah, we have really seen that the beef dairy cross has really increased in popularity within the last 5 to 6 years. We've done a lot of that. You look at here last couple years, especially as you look at the current year from the cattle supply numbers. More and more feedlots are looking at these as other options to have cattle on feed. So the popularity has really increased. The genetic companies have done a tremendous job over improving the quality product that's able to be provided to the feed yard. Very fortunate. So even before I started here at High Plains, they started doing research onto these beef dairy crosses, and our first closeouts actually go back to 2012, where we
Oh wow.
had
Okay.
some of those, and so they were kind of all over the place, and brought in a genetic company, and so that help kind of realize to take out some of the yo-yo effect, and been at the end the result creates a really consistent product, wholesome product. And we've done a lot of work with Texas Tech to do the flavor profile and the meat quality standpoint over trying to verify what that is going into the end consumer, and it provides a tremendous. It's a flavorful profile, very tender. It's highly in demand by the consumers, and so we've done some work to shape the ribeye to make that a little more consistent versus You think of from the Holstein side with the longer tail on the shape of that ribeye. Some of the consumers don't they see that in a retail case and they balk at that because it looks different. It tastes the same, but it looks different. And so have done a lot of work to help provide that feedback and collect that data and make those genetic selections to help change the shape of that to get a ribeye the same size shape as your traditional beef breed cattle. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we continue to see more and more of these composites. They're going in more places than what they have done before because just for a lot of them, the cattle supply issue, but also from the consistency of the product. Let's say all that, liver abscesses, kind of talked before, they're not all the greatest thing in the world. There are issues with them, whether it's health issues that's going through from the calf ranch all the way through to the feed yard. Sometimes you look at some of these vaccination protocols because they're easier to get to. It seems like we like to put more things inside of them, which maybe is not always as good. So it sometimes cause more of a health issue as we get here to the feed yard. And then liver abscesses are a significant issue in these dairy crosses, and which was the same with the Holsteins side as well. But we really need to figure out methods and options how to control those, reduce those and control those effectively for just from the trim loss and when we get to the packing plant and having to slow that chain speed just is really detrimental to efficiencies from the packing plant. And a lot of labor there to trim all of those out, and so it's a big loss and also a big loss onto the cattle efficiency side. So we need to really dig into the root cause of that. And so we have a study working on, so like so for some of the feed additive side, but really looking at them from a genetic component, health component, where we've done some retrospective analysis trying to dig to some of these root causes to put these pieces together. Or I mean, not expecting us to eliminate it, but if we can get that down to manageable to compare to traditional beef breeds, that would make these dairy beef crosses even more appealing to the industry.
Gotcha. Well, that's certainly interesting. You were speaking, so you touched on this, and this is where I was writing this down as you were saying it. So you said that shoppers are really liking the beef on dairy, like the steaks, the ribeyes after they've got you. You said there's like been brought in genetics to kind of bring that tail up and stuff like that. So the flavor and taste profiling that's being done at Texas Tech so they're not finding much different between like conventional beef and the beef on dairy, or those testers, are they liking it more? Because I'm very curious. I don't know that I've ever tried it. We eat beef out of our freezer, and I know that we've never done dairy beef, but I'm realizing like, I guess I wouldn't know if I was at the grocery store and I had beef on dairy, because it's not going to be, and it doesn't need to be labeled that way. It's not like a different product or anything. So I guess I wouldn't know. I'm just talking through this. Sorry.
Yeah, and a lot of that's what you're seeing that's going through there from the retail that you don't know. So what Tech have seen has a numerical improvement in flavor profile in the dairy crosses compared to the traditional beef breeds. And so when you think from the Holstein side, you look back at some of that data, very flavorful, very tender, so able basically kind of splitting the difference in both of those categories compared to our traditional beef breeds. However, we've seen an improvement in feedlot performance, so a lot more efficiency to get there. And so that's where it makes it a lot more appealing to the feed yards, because we don't have to have these on feed as near as long. We can get more gains and conversions, improved conversions out of them. So compared to the Holstein side, so it's kind of a mixture of both worlds. And how do we still trying to figure out how ways we continue to make improvements throughout that supply chain. But when you get to we've done the work, to the validation work, to to say, hey, would we be able to detect these differences? And the answer is no. Or if you do, you would like them a little bit better than what you had before. So there's not that concern as you look at these numbers that's entering into the supply chain.
I really want to try it. I mean, it's not like it's not alternative beef, it's beef, but I'm confident that I haven't had a steak from a beef on dairy animal in like 3 years, at least not on I guess, because I mean, we're, like I said, we are eating the food, like beef from our own freezer. So unless I guess I was at a restaurant and ordered a steak, but I just find that really fascinating because, for a long time, it seemed as if, Holstein beef, like when I was growing up, I know that was, unfortunately, like, looked down upon because it wasn't a beef animal. But it's just really interesting to see how the industry has progressed to like, oh yeah, like these two things have hybrid vigor and can be complementary. And so it's just really interesting to see that development and hear such positive outcomes from the research that you've done, but also from just general, like proof points in the industry. That's really encouraging to me. I mean, anytime we have more choice or high choice beef that is being demanded by customers, I think that by grocery shoppers, I think that's really important.
Yeah, and it's a tremendous model that we can do from a sustainability aspect as well. So, I mean, by improving, from the amount of resources to provide that, to get that creature to the endpoint, significantly less. And so it's a great for everyone involved.
So just to clarify, it's more feed efficient to feed a beef on dairy animal than it is a beef animal or a dairy.
So comparing to the dairy whole standpoint.
Gotcha.
So,
that's what I thought you were saying. I was just confirming that for my own, knowledge. So, I know that that's not probably what you planned on talking about today, but I find that really interesting. I like innovation, and I like changing things from the way that we've always done them. I think that that's not a great mindset to have. Like, that's the way we've always done things. That's how you stay stuck in the past. So I find that all really fascinating, and I appreciate you sharing that with us because I didn't know we were going to get to talk about that today. So
yeah, a curveball every now and again.
I know, it's fine. It wasn't a curveball. Like I said, I found it really interesting. Pivoting a bit, when you are not working, what kind of hobbies are you filling your time with? I haven't got to hang out and stuff like that since we were in college, so I don't know what you're up to much these days with that. But do you have any time for hobbies or anything like that?
So trying to make some time to get out and get away, spend time with family, and enjoy watching the good sporting events standpoint, and also from going out and playing a little bit of golf. So get a group together, and it's been kind of enjoyable just to kind of go out and get away, get your mindset on something else. And it can be a pretty aggravating game, but so can be the feed yard industry at times. So there's some similarities, but it can be pretty rewarding too. And so it only seems to take like one shot to go, all right, yep, I guess I'd be enough to come back again here in next week or so. So that's been something I've tried to do, keep some of the work-life balance in play.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you're making some time for the fun stuff too. I mean, clearly you enjoy your work, but it's nice to turn work off every once in a while.
It's time for our famous 3. Data shows most cattle don't get the vitamin D they need, especially in winter months. High D from DSM Firmenich can ensure your cattle get the recommended vitamin D level to support bone strength, help immunity, and improve performance. Visit dsm.com/HY-D to learn more.
That's all of my serious questions I have. These wrap-up questions, I gave you a heads up on these. We ask these of every guest. So the first one of these is, what is your favorite beef or cattle-related book or resource? It doesn't have to be a book. It could be a website or something. I interviewed 3 different professionals from Florida, and they all gave me the same book. So I thought that was really interesting to me. So anyway.
So one of I think the ideas that we look at here from a resource on the veterinary side that I use pretty frequently is the Merck Veterinary Manual website. So it's a great way is different disease topics to get a quick overview over what we're dealing with, and obviously can dig in more depth with them. But it provides spend a tremendous amount of resources to put those topics and provide tremendous necropsy pictures, and we can utilize some of those for even with our clients to provide examples. So that's been a tremendous resource to help us identify what's the root cause going on with some of these instances.
Okay. I had not had one that yet. So that was a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. All right. Now, what is a book that is not related to beef or cattle that you are currently reading, or a favorite one? If you're not reading a book right now, what's a favorite?
So that's probably one of the weird parts with me, is because my other half, she likes to read books and read a lot for job and computer wise standpoint, where I'm not a big reader afterwards. But a lot of the times driving from different locations standpoint, I love to listen to this podcast. And talk about some of the golf standpoint wise, there's a golf golf podcast is what it's called. And it's just kind of it kind of gives us about 30-40 minute just different synopsis, different courses they played, the way they laid out different discussion groups with some of the new tools and technologies. So it's I kind of eat that up, because it's like, okay, it's something from a different industry and how they're working through to try to make improvements for the game. And so I try to listen to that fairly regularly on some of my drives.
It's a different kind of research. It's still research, but I've definitely never gotten a golf podcast as your favorite non-related beef industry book. So you're the first for that category. So that's good. Okay. And then the last one is, when you think of someone that you admire, what is a trait that person possesses that has enabled them to be successful?
So people that I admire have been great mentors throughout my career. I've been very, very fortunate, and and some of the best things that they're very dependable, and you can they're going to tell you what they think and what's needed to be done, but you can always depend on. I mean, they're going to be there day in and day out for you, and provide that information when needed. But they're also going to let you go out and make your own decisions and reap your own rewards, or deal with the consequences too. So you learn from that as well. So I think that those attitudes and responsibilities that they can are being there have provided tremendous resources for me to get to where I'm at today.
Okay, I agree. It's really easy to trust someone when you know that they're going to be there no matter what. That is I believe, an underrated characteristic. So, well, Miles, sadly, that is all the time we have for today and all the questions I have. I would love to talk with you another hour, but sadly we can't. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was really good to see your face and talk to you, and also hear what you've been up to, and share more about yourself and your research and all the great work you're doing on behalf of the beef industry. If people want to find out more information about your work or the veterinary, the Veterinary Research and Consulting Service, VRCS, if they want to learn more about that, or you, or get in contact with you, this is your chance to give that plug and tell people where they can find those things.
Sure. No, it's been great catching up and talking about things. So hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future, and more or in between. But you and I need to catch up. But happy to. Feel free. So our Veterinary Research and Consulting Service website is vrcsllc.com. And then my email address will be miles@vrcsllc.com. Feel free to email me, or reach out to see our company. I'm happy to provide any information or follow-up topics that any of the viewers may have.
Okay, that's great. So that is www.vrcsllc.com. For those of you who are listening, I'm putting that in the show notes. I've also put Miles's email address in there. I've put that in the show notes, so you can find that at the bottom of your screen. Miles, thank you again for being here. It was really nice to talk to you, and we cannot let so many years go by again before we see each other's faces. So we're going to have to meet up at a K-State sporting event or something like that, or maybe a KLA meeting, or I don't know, something. We gotta run into each other. So thank you for joining us. To our audience, thank you for tuning in, and we hope that you will join us again next week on the Beef Podcast.